From in the beginning to the musical apocalypse, this is The Bible Says What. I'm your host, Mike Wiseman. For clarification later on, yes, we can see atoms, but the atom cannot be seen without special tools. What special tools can be used to see the Christian deity? What units of measure does one use to determine the closeness of Jesus? Faith? Feelings? These are not effective tools to determine the truth. Let's start the show.
Is there anything in the Bible that you yourself have an issue with? Okay, so it took you reading the Bible to realize that those things were bad for you?
Yeah, it actually did. I
Couldn't
didn't
figure this out on your own?
No, Ted Bundy could be redeemed. God doesn't kill children.
What do you think the Passover was? Yahweh sets up a whole system in the Old Testament where you slaughter animals just so he's able to forgive you.
Today's special guest is founder and CEO of Potential to Reality Consulting, Carrie Bass. Welcome to the show, Carrie.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. Tell the folks at home a little bit about what you do.
Well, I have what I like to call a boutique, meaning small and that take very limited engagements for management consulting. I focus on helping governments and not-for-profits and even some commercial organizations be able to review and implement their strategy. And then also from a standpoint of being able to help them look at their operations and be able to use the principles of quality management, particularly Lean Six Sigma, and be able to help them be able to get the most efficient and helpful operations to be able to achieve success with that strategy.
Nice, nice. Why'd you start doing that? What made you get into this?
I'm kind of a little bit of a change junkie, but kind of the bottom line of it though is that I spent a good bit of time working with well, I had a family business that I grew up in, that with my first service station and garage, but that taught me like technical operations and mechanics. And then I went to work for a large information systems. I won't mention their name, but they. I kind of grew up in the corporate world working through them. And one of the things that I had as I transitioned from field technical operations into management is I started looking at some of the processes and being responsible. And in those days, those processes were horrendous. That was probably the most
I'm sure.
secure that I've ever been.
Mm.
But the jobs were just killers. And in particular, this one job I could never stay on top of. It was, those cartoons where you see the paper stacking up higher and higher and
Uh-huh.
higher, and I worked more and more hours, and then I just realized that I couldn't do it, and so we had to
Mhm.
do something different, and so that's
Nice.
what got me into making change.
Making change. Nice. That's awesome. Change junkie. I like that. Thank you for that. So as far as God is considered, how does he fit into all this?
Well, that's been a consistent thread and enablement throughout my life. I was raised in a Christian household, and so I
Hmm.
learned fundamentals of Christian belief. Also, I was raised in the missionary Baptist tradition, and so as I grew there, also my for a for those that are believers, you understand the spirit grew within me. And
Hmm.
then I started understanding and actually accepted a calling into the ministry. And that coupled with the other things and desires and learning that I had kind of had a synergistic view on things. And so that's how I kind of view myself as a integrated being that uses those tools with the interweaving foundations of the spirit to be able to accomplish what I'm here to do.
So you use, correct me if I'm wrong here, you use the Spirit to help you help direct you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. How
It,
does that work?
I, well, I'm not sure that how many of your viewers or your participants have a Christian faith background, but
Hmm,
from a monotheistic background,
good question.
there's a belief, and I'm kind of one of those b believers that has come from that view of called intelligent design,
Hmm,
meaning that we as human beings are created in harmony or at the direction of a superior being. And that
spirit.
superior being actually is looking as part of his nature, and his being the just simply as a term because we as humans in Western culture don't know of anything else other than to think of the supreme and the top being a man, but
Hmm.
that the supreme being's nature, and one of the things that he likes to do is to create. And so he is replicating. We become the image of that. And so
Hmm.
that's what this is about. And so
So where's
we
the
take
Spirit
on the
come into
character.
that though? Yeah, yeah. I mean, if
Well,
we look like gods and we're in the characteristics of gods, and uh, why do we need the Spirit part?
well, that is actually the nature of God, and many philosophical, theological traditions, and that's what I taught and what I believe, is that humans are have three uh, elements:
Hmm.
a physical element, and
Hmm.
then there is a intellectual element
All right.
that
Okay.
is, we might call our our self-being, or whatever, our awareness, our consciousness, and then we
Consciousness.
also
There you
have
go. Yeah, I would go with that. Yeah.
a spiritual element, and that is the nature of God that's within us. And so, therefore, and the belief is that is the peace that's eternal and that's enabling and powerful.
That's a sentence. That's the Spirit is the nature of God in us. Um,
Yes.
can you dive into that a little bit more? The nature of God. What specifically do you mean by the nature of God in us?
Well, sharing there's one of my favorite passages, and kind of the core of my thought
Hmm.
is the first chapter of John, about the 9th to the 13th verse. And if I'll give it my Carrie Bass translation, and that basically is that he, speaking of Jesus Christ, was in the world, and the world didn't know him. He went to his own, and his own didn't receive him. But
Huh.
to as many as have received him, he gave the power to become the children of God. And even those that just believe on his name, those have the power to become the children of God. And so that means that is the true nature of God. And if you go and read further in that gospel, it talks about that nature, that God is a spirit, and therefore that we that are part of him, if you want to be part of him and you evolve into him, you start operating more into his nature, and the spirit begins to operate more in your uh, dealings and your manifestation.
Interesting. So the nature of God. How are we supposed to decipher the difference between our own thoughts and feelings about things versus this nature of God, this third element that's inside of us? How are we supposed to decipher between those two?
Well, there is in that same tradition, and also in some of the further writings of that Apostle John, some of the epistles that they talk about, it says that well, in that Gospel of John, it says that if you are going to become the nature of a child, you have to be what we call born again, meaning born of the Spirit.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that
I
nature
understand
of
that.
being born of the Spirit is that you love people. You because the bottom line essence of it is
Hmm.
that there's nothing else that God really needs from us other than the fact of awareness and communion with Him. And so then if you are operating as part of the God that we are, then His Spirit manifests in you. And so He loves creation and humans because He chose to. Therefore, it manifests in us. And so the things
Huh.
that you do, if it is of benefit not just only to you, because you are also part of humanity, but if it's for the benefit of others, if it's for supporting others, then you're manifesting His Spirit in this world.
So what you're saying is the humanistic side of me and other people is God. And that's how we know it's different. That's how we know it's not our nature, it's God's nature. Is that what we're concluding here?
Yeah, and that's kind of some it gets to be really interesting because sometimes we're faced with dilemmas
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
making a choice. But basically, it's almost like the Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs. Self-actualization is a manifestation, and this is Carrie Bass's view again, of the
That's
spirit
all
of
we want.
God.
That's why we're here.
We do things because we choose to do things, and it gives us joy because it gives us the ability to help other people. It's easy to subjugate other people. That's
But how do you
that's
get there though?
nature.
Carrie, how do you get there though? How do you get from I did something good to that something good is from God? How do we get to that? And I mean, we'll get to God. We'll describe your God, of course, but I'm guessing he's just the God of the Bible. Let's just jump it right there. Fine. We'll describe your God. Is he the God of the Bible? Is the Bible true? How do you follow with that?
Um, he is the God of the Bible.
Hmm.
The Bible is the revelation of man, but I'm going to differ from classic Christian doctrine,
Hmm.
and I'm not going to say that God is contained in the particular Bible that we have. Particularly, like if you look at the
Hmm.
Protestant Bible, it doesn't have all the books as the Catholic Bible.
Right, but are the
There
stories
are
about
other
him true in there? Is it a true story? Uh, Genesis, the Revelation, are these true in actual events and descriptions and of the characteristic of God?
I believe that there's truth in it, and I can't necessarily tell you if every particular action is true.
Yeah.
Here's the example
Yeah.
of what I believe and how it manifests in the spirit. In the Gospels of the Protestant Christian Bible,
Hmm.
there is the accounts of the death of Jesus on Calvary. And there in all of, I think three of the four gospels, there is a recognition of that there were other malefactors. There were other people that were crucified with him.
Hmm.
Two of those gospels say that they died. One actually says that they both cursed Jesus and died.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
a one gospel that and in Luke, I believe it is, and also in John, where it tells where one thief had a conversation with Jesus,
Yeah.
and that thief said, admonished the other one and says that we deserve what we got. We're here because we're here, but this man is innocent.
Right.
So why not at this last moment? Let's have a little bit of decency. And he turned to Jesus and said, if you're him, remember me. And Jesus turned to him and said, this day you're going to be with me in paradise.
In paradise. Yeah.
Now, those they can't all be true. All of those uh, uh, stories of the
Narratives. Yeah.
same account
They cannot
can't
be
be
true.
true.
Exactly.
Right.
So how
But
do you
the
mingle
Spirit tells
the
me
truth in there? How do you get that?
the Spirit tells me that the one where he saves the soul of the spirit of the thief on the
The good
cross,
deed.
that
Yeah.
is
Mm.
spiritual truth, because
Mm.
that's the nature of God. That's why he was sent, and that resonates
That's why
with
he was sent.
my spirit of And so that's what I believe to be true.
Why do you think he was sent?
It says, and again, it says that um, the Jesus in that same gospel that I was telling about is that he was sent to save and to form a
Save.
means for
Save and,
this. He's
build a communication between us and God. Kind of like an email
yes.
system, like a futuristic email system that
Ma-
God
Matter of
didn't
fact, that's
have
what they call
before,
that's
but now needs. And the way to do this is to kill himself to
well,
save us
it was
from
called
him, right?
it
Is
was
that how
called
the story
it was
goes?
called no, it was called the Word, and he's called the Word because you're
Right.
exactly right. He's the mediator and the communicator.
Yeah.
But in the system of theology that I buy into,
Hmm.
and that is maturing in understanding through me through the Spirit of God, is that um, if you are creating something,
Hmm.
um, and you want that something to be equivalent to you,
All
then
right.
you have to, and you want that entity to be into a relationship with you, then there has to be some type of equivalency, right?
Right. I
Okay.
wouldn't have that be killing my kid. I wouldn't have that
Well,
be
wait,
creating a system where I need bloodshed for forgiveness and then having to kill myself, clone myself, whatever, to myself to forgive everybody else. So,
I hear what you're saying,
okay,
but
good. All right.
so here is the nature, and it has to go back all the way to Adam and Eve and all
The
those sort of
nature.
things. If
Yeah,
the
yeah.
nature again, it's the physical nature of humans is that we are self-centered, and so we do things
Who made us that way?
that's our human nature. But let
Who
me
gave it that?
again
Who
let
gave us that nature though? Who decided
but
that
let me
humans would have that nature when he created them?
here is the again my view of creation
Yeah.
is that what makes humans different than the rest of the animal world, and I'm not saying that we may be the only ones,
Mm.
but what
Mm.
my understanding and what my belief is that we have the ability to choose to go beyond our nature. If
Interesting.
you don't have the choice to make that choice, then you have to do it. So
Well, what about
I believe
dogs?
sin.
Dogs also have good nature. Dogs can do good and bad things. Dogs can choose to do good and bad thing. Do they have the spirit of God in them?
Some people say that that there are other. That's the reason I said I'm not going to tell you that man is the only thing, but
Is it
that's
just our
just
intelligence that sets us apart? Because at that part, that
not
doesn't make it
necessarily.
right
No,
either.
no,
Yeah.
it's not
Is it
necessarily just
so? Is it
intelligence.
just the empathy that we have, that spirit of God that we can do? I see groups of animals working together to do things that, they ants even can work together with different
Yep.
animals and coexist and profit off each other. But so I don't
But
see
it's
the
but
spirit
it's
of God in
it's
an
about
ant though.
it's about a choice, and
Wouldn't that
and
just be their nature though?
I'm not trying to again trying to say that that there's not a godly spirit or actions in other parts of nature. But here's what I
Interesting.
understand for.
Yeah.
Let me give you again. My system
Yeah. Yeah.
is that uh, if you go back to the very beginning
Mm.
of where God is creating beings, and this is one
Yeah.
of the things that I don't know, but maybe when we get there, he'll understand me. Is that God has created, even in His realm we call heaven,
Mm.
there are beings that do nothing but praise Him all day long,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
because that's recorded. That somebody revealed that. Not many people have been there and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
if you believe that there is a God that can create and has the power to do it, why not create things that can do all He wants to do every day? Um, but if you want
Would
to
you do that
replicate
though,
what is
Gary? Would you create
well,
beings that
here's
just worship you all day long?
not if I'm going to act like God, no, because here's I want
I
things
wouldn't,
if
Carrie. I think it's very egotistical to do such a thing and kind of gross.
exactly.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. So if I'm
Right.
wanting then to have a relationship, a communion,
Hmm.
then there has to be some type of equivalency in that relationship. You as a human, if I'm creating you and
Hmm.
all beings
Right.
don't have the ability to control the environment. We can't make the sun shine. We
No.
don't even control our heart. Well, some of us have the ability to
Well, we're
slow it
getting
down.
there.
There's
We're
some
getting there,
people,
Carrie.
yeah, yeah, but and I believe that that's part of the revelation. But the whole point is that evil exists because if only good existed, there would be no choice, and
What?
therefore that would be his nature of allowing. His nature is to choose. He chooses. He's a
Carrie,
sovereign.
hold on. Hold that thought. You just said something there. So the only reason evil exists is because we need to make a choice? Because
Between
God needs
evil
us
and
to
good.
make a choice? So the reason that all this
He doesn't need
horrible,
us to.
horrible things are
He doesn't.
happening is because
He
God
doesn't need
wants
us
us to make
to.
a choice?
He doesn't need us to.
Do you
He
think we could get a
allows.
better system that, make a choice in a different way that's not as, I don't know, grotesque? Have you seen the things that go on in this world?
I see. Here's let's use a perfect example
Hmm.
of right now. Right now, and and I may get in trouble for doing
Oh
that,
boy.
but that's the whole point.
I
That's
love
the
it
whole
already.
point
Go,
of what.
Carrie, go.
But um, if you look at the situation in Israel
Mm,
right now,
mm,
um,
mm.
they've been at war with Gaza. Now, these people, by the way, if you go back and look historically, and you look at supposedly, even if you believe that the Bible, they're all descendants of Abraham. They're all one family. They're cousins. Okay,
Well,
so
Canaanites.
um,
And then before that, your Garrett's or
yeah,
something like that. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's
yeah,
just, yeah, change.
but they're
Change.
they're the same people. Okay,
Mm,
so um, right now,
mm,
um, and it's been that way for thousands of years. But if you look at it right now, Israel, for whatever situation, they had created, or Israel and Gaza and the people in Gaza and some of the Palestinians have a system of animosity that basically that they have been at war with each other for basically centuries, but most manifestations since the latest manifestation of Israel, at
mm.
least since the 1940s, that they've been at each other, and so it's been a tit for tat death
Right.
battle.
Yeah.
Now, Israel came into being, and the modern Israel came into being because they had been horrendously treated by the German Nazis, okay? Christian folk.
Mm.
And so um, there was a carve out for those that said, wait a minute, this is not right. We need to do something for these people that have been horribly oppressed. And so they carved out a piece of land, modern day Israel,
People did
and they
that.
said, this will be
People
for
saw
you.
people in
People
struggle and did something.
did
God's
something
favorite
about it.
people were struggling, and God watched. Kind of like when they were enslaved in Egypt for 400 years and he forgot about them. And then he's like, oh, I remember. They're suffering. Holy cow, I should do something.
I don't think he forgot about him, but
Well,
but even if
yeah,
you use that as,
different interpretations.
but yeah, but here, okay, so once again, Israel has been redeemed and put in their land. Now, I was born in 1959. I didn't experience directly or know about the horrors of the Nazi situation, but I
Mm,
heard about it and I
yeah.
knew people who experienced it
Yeah.
and fought against it.
Mm.
And so they tried to do the right thing. So
Did they have a
these people,
relationship with God?
I don't know. And that's and that's another thing about it is that uh, it's arrogant of me to decide who has a relationship with God and who doesn't.
Mm, mm.
My task is
Good
just
choice,
to
Gary.
present what's
Yeah. Well,
presented.
how do you
I
feel
can tell
about
you,
that situation? I mean, we can dive into that for a second, though. I mean, we got this horrible thing that's happening to God's favorite people, and it
okay,
happens throughout the
I
Bible a couple of times as well.
yeah, I
Why?
think
Yeah.
now here, okay, I believe that there's some reasons why the Palestinians, they call themselves Hamas, uh, felt
I don't
that
think
they
all of the
need to do
Palestinians call themselves Hamas. But that's beside the point. Let's
not all.
Yeah,
No,
let's not.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying. But
yeah.
but I'm saying about for this particular
So
incident
that
beginning
group
in
of
last
Palestinians, you want to call Hamas, or they want to call them whatever, we'll
Right.
call that group of Palestinians, not all, but not blanketing a statement there. We're just going to call some of them. Yes. Some of them
Exactly. And
are Hamas.
that's an important designation. They're not all of them are
Right.
Hamas. Okay. So there was this buffer set up that, between the Palestinians and the Israelites, and so they were how this military
Hmm.
people that supposedly know they're living in a hostile land and all this sort of thing put this there, but they weren't paying attention.
Hmm.
And so some people from Hamas broke through and they killed 1,200
Yeah.
Israelis and
And it's
took,
just been nonstop slaughter ever since. Yes, yes, yes.
but
Yeah.
but that was awful. That was bad. That was
All of it is
evil.
horrible.
Now, going back on the other side, where you kill 30 plus thousand people. Okay, so you don't believe it's 30,000. Say it's half that number, 15,000,
Yeah.
10 to 1. And you see on the news, I have a hard time believing that a baby that's delivered by C-section out of the dead mother's body, that's a Palestinian, is Hamas.
Hmm.
So I can't see that
Yeah.
that's a justified nature. So that's evil. And it sets up, and the nature of
Hmm.
evil is that it really doesn't care who. Um, I have to
So
guard myself to be really
what
careful
if
because
there was somebody in charge? I don't know, somebody very powerful in charge that knew this was about to happen and didn't stop the horrible, horrible things that happened to the women and children in that city. So what would you judge that
you
person according to their non-action? Would you
uh
question
let me
their
are you a
go
parent?
ahead?
Are you a parent?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a parent too.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, you've been in this situation. I know. You know that what your child is about to do, you can tell because you've been there yourself. You can see that they're about to make a wrong choice. And that wrong choice will have some consequences that will not be pleasant for them. It might
Carrie,
even,
I'm sorry. I'm just going to stop you there. That is a huge difference between rape and murder. That is huge difference. So I don't want to go
I,
down that route. I don't want to go to the stove. I don't want to go to any of
no,
that crap. We cannot
well,
compare
but no,
this to
but
children acting up.
no, wait a
We
minute, wait a
cannot
minute.
compare.
What is um and forgive me for using this term. What it really is sin.
Sin is doing things that God doesn't like, or missing the
There you
target
go.
in archery. I think it was archery.
Exactly. Exactly. And so it's a human thing to say that degrees are, and in this particular case, the creation of God, and I'm talking about sin, is digital. Either you sin or you do not. That's the whole nature, and that's what this is all about. That's what I'm telling you.
Where did
You
sin come
sin or
from?
you
Who decided sin would be a
it,
thing?
again because of if sin did not exist, there would be no choice for this creation that's supposed
How
to
do you know
have
that?
choice
There's
to
all
be able
kinds
to
of ways to
choose.
make choices. There's all kinds of different ways to do this. How do you know that
I'm
this is the
I'm giving you Carrie Bass's
yeah, yeah.
view
But how do you
on
know, Carrie? How does Carrie know?
it because what happens is that as you begin to mature and grow into that spirit, your spirit gets
I
in
don't
tune with
understand that though, Carrie. How
I
can I
can't
grow in a
and
spirit? How does that work? How do I grow in a spirit? Is that just getting more knowledge about God?
it's a
How
it's
does
a it's
growing
a
in the spirit
it's a
work?
communing.
So
It's
you're
a
growing closer
communing.
to God.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's a little bit that's a little better. Okay, so growing in the spirit is growing closer to God. Okay, now how close are
Right.
you right now to God?
I don't know
Oh,
because that's part of
you
the
don't
that's
know.
part of the issue. I mean, that's part of the issue is that we live in an imperfect state while we're in this the physical realm,
Why are we living in
and
an
so
imperfect state?
because we've not yet become what we will be.
What about kids that die early and go to heaven? Do they become what they will
They
be?
may, they may be. That's
Yeah.
not been imparted to me. I don't have that
Right, but
knowledge.
if Carrie believes this, I'm curious why, because this doesn't seem to add up for me. If a baby has that and he goes to heaven and he doesn't, get to go through life and all the fun challenges God has set up for him to make him
He may
a
not have.
better
He may not have meant to
person.
be.
Yeah.
He may not have meant to be. Let me give you another instance, and it's in the Gospels. But and again, um, and it sounds a little self-serving. I know that, but
Kind of
not
like making
everybody
people to
can.
worship you.
Yeah, not everybody can hear what it is that that I'm going to say, and they can't believe it, or they don't want to believe it, and it's not up to me to make them believe it,
Right.
which is another problem that I think that's part of organized religion,
Well,
is that it's not our responsibility to make people believe what we think is right. But
no, but
anyway,
I do believe
uh,
there is a responsibility on the person who is claiming something to be able to explain that claim and to have it make sense. I think
that,
that's
that,
fair, right? I mean,
that doesn't matter whether it's fair or not. It is what it is, and so you can either, if what I'm saying resonates with you, then that means that our spirit is resonating. If you don't get what I'm saying, then it means that you
spirits
think I'm a nut job,
resonate.
and therefore, so one more.
Man,
I think I'm all right with that. That's what if that's okay. That's your choice, and that's one of the things that's part of this country that I
hmm.
think we need to, and that was the real foundation of this country. Is I think that there's room for people to believe what they want to believe, as long as your
Hmm.
beliefs don't impinge on mine. So
Yeah, there you go. Nice job. Yeah, very
your
well said.
actions, they're not impinge on my life.
That,
So,
yeah.
but I was going to give you another example that it was written in another account. And it may not be true if you
Hmm.
don't believe it's true and that sort of thing. But there was a man that was born deaf and blind, and
Uh-huh.
so he was um uh, all of his life he was taken care of and pitied, and whatever. And so uh, the story goes that Jesus encountered him and and healed him.
Jesus healed
And
somebody.
so
Yeah, I've heard lots of those
yeah,
stories.
he healed.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he healed this person that was crippled from birth. Okay, that's
yeah.
the essence of it.
But did he pass
So the
any kind of awesome healing along to the rest of us? Or was it just those few people that he encountered way back when?
Well, there's another piece that gets to be, and that gets to be kind of where I'm gonna come from,
Yeah.
and it ties it back into what I believe and
Love it
why I
when it
do
comes
what I
back
do.
around.
But the point of that story was that Jesus's disciples, and because they were thinking again in this term of accountability, and it must be logical. And so if sin exists because somebody sinned,
Hmm.
then who sinned that this man was born crippled? And did he sin from in his
Hmm.
mother's womb? Well, that doesn't make sense. Well, then it
Hmm.
must have been his parents' sin. Which one of his parents sinned, or which side of his family sinned, that
It's a disease.
this malady was visited upon him? And Jesus answered, maybe it was because he was supposed to be here today for me to heal him, so you could ask the question.
And then what was the answer,
Uh,
though? That's just a riddle, man.
that
That's
was
not
the
an
answer.
answer.
No,
What's the
no, no, that
answer?
was the answer. That's the answer.
But he didn't answer the
Is
question.
that, oh, he sure he did.
How did he
He
go ahead?
said it could be that this person was allowed to be in this position just so that I could heal them, so you could ask a question.
Right, the question that he's not going to answer, he's just going to turn it around. That's so weird to me, but that's okay. So let's dive into that. So do you think that
But he
that
doesn't have
happened?
to be logical.
Well,
It's really
it
about.
does. I mean, it's nice if things make sense.
No,
So
it boils down to faith. I don't have to prove anything to you. You can believe me or
no, but
not.
make it make sense. I mean, so I don't
I
need
don't have
faith, so I
to.
can use
Why does it have to make sense in
reality
your
and
realm?
uh, why does it have to make sense? Because before I believe something, Carrie, I usually make it make sense. It makes sense to me.
And
That's usually why. I'm
if
not going to believe that ducks fly backwards. Well, that just
you
doesn't
don't
make
have,
any sense. Could you imagine
you
pooping
don't
in the
have,
air, flying backwards? No,
you,
that's weird too. So no. I
You
can't.
don't, you
It's
don't have
not.
to,
It's
but
not
I'm just
reality.
saying
So give me some
you
facts. Give
don't
me
have.
some reality, and then we can, and then I go with the belief.
But
I'm not just going to willy nilly.
we're talking about a realm, metaphysical realm
Right. A make believe
that may not
area
necessarily,
that nobody can see, touch, taste, smell. Experience.
again,
Yeah.
you don't
That's where
have
it's
to
weird
believe
for
it.
me, Carrie. Though that's where it's weird. I can pretend
I'm,
I'm living
and
in
it's
Fantasia, but I'm not. But the
and I'm not
reality
trying
is
to
I'm
convince,
not. And I'm not
and
trying
I'm
to
not trying
convince
to.
you that you live in Fantasia either. But
Okay,
you don't have to believe
okay,
it. But I want to know
right. You
why
don't have to
you
believe
believe it.
because it resonates with my spirit. My spirit, I believe, resonates with God's. Okay,
That's a fun one.
so
I love that. I love that.
I think
Resonates with my spirit.
that enables me,
Hmm.
and it's a circular, discussion and all that sort of thing from logic, human logic, and all that sort of thing. I understand.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it may not be for you. That's
Is there
all.
anything else you do this
So
with in your life? They're like, I don't know, relationships.
and
You
that's what I'm
just,
saying.
I'd like, I don't know. How does this work?
And that's what I'm saying. That enables me, and that's kind of the foundational thing of what I do. I believe that if I am a child of God, then I have some of his characteristics.
Oh, we got that. Yeah. I
So
established it. But how
therefore,
do you,
uh,
yeah,
and so therefore, I have the ability to be able to think through some things and be able to help, things become better. If people choose to be better, then I can help them do that in the
mm,
processes, the ones that I'm meant to work in, if there are systems, if there are ways to do it. That's the reason I choose
mm,
with my boutique practice. I don't just take everything that
mm,
is, that I come upon. It's not everything that I'm supposed to, nor can I, nor would I. But I choose to spend my time on things that I think on organizations that I think that can do well by doing good.
mm.
And that I believe is the nature of resonating with God resonating with me.
How do you define doing good?
That it has a general nature of helping others.
Helping others. Beneficial, something
Mhm.
beneficial, right?
Beneficial. Yeah.
Hmm.
Now,
So do you
and
think that God
beneficial,
does good all the time?
I'm sorry.
Do you think that God does good all the time?
Um, in the grand scheme of things, yes. But does he allow bad things to happen? Yes.
Does he do
Because
good all the time? Himself, personally, that guy, that deity, that character, Yahweh, does
I,
he
I
do good
really,
himself
I really can't tell you that
all the time?
uh, that God is operating. Matter of fact, my belief system says that if God created humans in His image, then He's not going to do what He's allowing us to do or set for us to do,
What do you mean by
because
that?
that would be denying His. Huh?
What do you mean by that? He's
That
not going to
that
do what? Yeah, go ahead.
that we have the ability to do some things, and we are responsible for doing some things. I
Okay.
believe, for instance, and from an ecological standpoint, that man, if you believe again that there's any truth to the creation story and where humans are in the scheme of creation, then we have management responsibility for the earth. And so therefore, even though that we can't make the sunshine and we didn't create the air and we didn't, create the species and that sort of thing, we have the responsibility to learn about it and to take care of it.
Hmm.
And so when we know better, we are supposed to do better.
Right.
So, to me, like you take energy for the sake. If um, we discovered the possibility of fossil fuels, and they created a tremendous capability for humankind to be able to advance sociologically in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah, but
We
solar power
for
did in the same thing, and we had it at the same time.
But
We had it,
but
the basics of
we
it.
didn't know, we didn't know about solar power
Well, we
when
did.
we
I
created it.
definitely look into that. I'm almost positive that we knew about solar power at the same time,
Well, I
and
mean,
the power of the
but
sun. So as far as that goes, I think that
but
was
we
bought out
didn't.
by companies who want more money, then stealing the land, and then it kills all the Native Americans. There's so much
I think
behind that.
I
Yes,
think that
100%.
I think
So
there's
that's the bad that comes from
there's
that.
some. But I'm talking about if you go back toward the beginning of where fossil fuels began, it was about being able to find portable energy. And so we found that in the natural resource,
We
coal
chose that.
first,
That's the
and then
choice we made. Yes. And that's a bad choice.
because it was, well, but we didn't know that at the time.
I don't know.
Collectively, we didn't know.
That's I
Okay.
don't know. Collectively, there you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Even now,
Uh,
I doubt that collectively we know that.
but
Some people,
but what
shape of
I'm
the
saying
earth.
is, okay, and that gets to be again kind of like one of those spiritual decisions. It gets to be too.
No,
So here's,
that's just a regular decision. Why you gotta make
wait,
it spiritual?
I
That's so
knew,
weird
I
to
knew
me.
you were going to say, knew you were going to say that. But here's the deal. Okay, is that at the time we thought it was a good idea to
Mhm.
use fossil fuels, and it
Yeah.
seemed to produce good for benefit for
Interesting.
mankind. And
Hmm.
but uh, we began to notice that the decision that we made is got some serious consequences with it also.
Hmm.
And then we begin to be aware of these other choices and we begin to pay attention to them. And so we became enlightened enough, and that's where the point
Some
that you were on, to
some
be
of us,
able
yeah.
to make the choice that we need to start thinking about doing something different. Because if we
Hmm.
keep doing what we're doing, it's going to
Hmm.
produce what we were doing for good is going to be bad for us.
How do you feel
That's
about the flood? Do you think that was a real
the
thing?
um there's some evidence of that, but I don't necessarily know. And again, I can't tell you what's allegory and myth and
Mm.
what is reality. I guess that
But you believe
again
it,
that
though. Do you believe that part?
let me tell you what I believe.
Hmm.
I believe that God allowed mankind to try to move in a different direction. I don't
God
know
tried
from a time
something.
standpoint.
The all-knowing God
No,
tried something.
I didn't. He did something. Is what I meant to
Oh,
say.
okay. Oh,
So
sorry.
basically, what I'm saying, I can't tell you if the flood happened in 40 days and 40 nights, or if it was
But did it
40,000
happen at
years.
all? Did God open the gates of, or did
There,
God flood a bunch of
there's
people? Did he drown a bunch of people? Did
there's
that happen?
there's evidence. There's evidence in
There's evidence
our
of floods all over the
geological.
world, but not a mass earthly entire global flood. That is incorrect. But we can differ on that. But do you believe it happened? Do you believe that God struck people down with a bunch of vengeful rainwater? Do you think that story happened at all? That's what I'm
I
getting at.
don't
I want to
know.
know the nature. We're talking about the nature of God is in us. I'm seeing the nature of God a whole lot different than you are as far as the book goes. These horrible
Right.
things he has done in the book,
Right.
not just the things he's
Well,
ordered to be done, because that's bad enough as it is. But I'm talking the ones he's had a hand in personally. He personally drowned everybody on the planet. He personally struck down the children in Egypt in the middle of the night while they were sleeping in their beds. He personally did these things. So that's what I'm
yep.
talking about. He personally got the child from Bathsheba and David. He personally got it sick, made it
Which
suffer.
again gets to be, which
So
again
the
gets to be,
nature.
and again, that's the elements of human beings. There's worse things that can happen to you than physical
But that's
death.
not good nature. That's not doing good. I don't see that as a good thing. I don't see that as a humanistic thing. So when
I
God
can't.
kills or
I'm
sets
sorry.
up
I can't
something
make it
for
fit.
that, it
I
makes
can't
it
make it
bad,
fit.
right?
I can't make it fit your system.
It's you're right. It is. I have this wall here. This is my system. Are you ready? I have this wall, and on the other side of it is worshiping Jesus. But I can't get past
I
this wall. It's this wall of he's invisible, he's mute, he's a documented child killer, he's ordered silly things, he wants bloodshed for forgiveness. That's what this wall is made of. All those horrible things. And I can't get past it, Jerry. Sorry, Carrie. I can't get past it. How do you get past that wall? This is my system,
it,
and I have a problem, Carrie, because Jesus is going to save me from his dad on the other side of this wall. I'm going to have a personal relationship with the creator of the universe, but there's this something stopping me. How do you get around
I
it? How do you break it?
I don't break it. It's not up to me to break it. It's for me to present the opportunity for you to hear the possibility.
So it's just you don't have that
And
wall. I have that wall though, Carrie.
I'm sorry, and that gets to be again the nature of things, and I think that
But why don't you
that
have
gets to
that
be a
wall?
because it's an individual thing. For me to break
Yeah,
that wall for you would deny your ability to make that choice.
right. What I'm wondering now is why you don't have that wall. Why your wall doesn't exist there. You're there. You
Because
don't have this wall stopping
I,
you about child killing
I
and all the horrible things and the invisibleness and the not knowingness.
the,
You don't have that. Why?
because and again and I know it sounds circular, but the Spirit of God in me uh recognized that there was something beyond that wall, and when I accepted that, then it begins to grow, and so the wall diminishes.
I love it. It makes no
But
sense to me, but it was fun though. But I want to know, you have this personal, is it a personal relationship or is it just a distant, like a long distant relationship
uh
with Jesus or Yahweh
yeah,
or either one?
it's personal, but
Personal. Okay.
it's not like, for me, it's
Uh-huh.
not like what you would hear from other that that make people think that that is spirit. For instance, when I
Hmm.
accepted a call into the gospel ministry, I heard, and that being a reconciliation between frustration and resolution and cognitive dissonance and
Hmm.
all those things. I heard the Spirit of God say, do either do it or don't.
You heard a
I'm God and
voice.
you. Huh? I felt a
You had a thought.
thought, presence.
You had a thought.
Uh,
Okay. So
yeah,
a thought
yeah.
came into your head that you really need to do this, and you associated that thought with the word of God or the voice of God or the spirit of God. Why?
But
Why did we
it was
associate
a
that
different nature.
thought? Go ahead. Yeah.
It was a different nature of thought than other intellectual
Explain.
thoughts
Explain
that
what a different nature of thought is.
I can't really explain it to you other than the fact that there are some things that you can think through, like for instance, as part of my doctoral program, statistics. If you go through statistics and be able to, you can make a prediction about the way that some uh, uh, population may act within a certain element of probability based on the mathematics of what's happened before. That's that's a intellectual thought, and you can go through the
Okay.
math and you can prove.
How can we put that to
But
God?
but there's still a 5% chance or whatever, 91%, whatever number that you want to pick to do the math. That's an intellectual thought. You can go through the math exercise to do
How
that.
do we
But
intellectually think through this spirit thing?
it's not an intellectual exercise. That's what I'm telling you. It's a
I
uh,
am realizing that.
intellectual get you there, but then you get you to the point. But then you have to have, for lack of a better word, faith that
So you
believes
just
that
have to
there is.
believe it. If you just believe
Yeah,
it, yeah. And I can't do that. I can't just pretend that way. I'm an adult. I've
that's
lost that pretending ability. I can't just pretend I'm
well,
buddies with Spider-Man all the time. That would be great.
well,
He swings past while I'm
I,
driving to work.
and I appreciate that, but but I'm sorry, but and yeah, and I don't get embarrassed. I kind of figured that that you might make fun of the fact of the
I'm not
faith,
making
but
fun of it. It
that's
just doesn't make sense. It's exactly what you just said. We have to pretend
I
to believe it, and then
I
what
no,
happens
I
once
didn't
we
say
pretend?
pretend.
We just
I don't say pretend. It is real. My faith is real. I don't
well,
pretend to
that's
believe it.
different than faith, though.
I do
So do
believe
you
it.
know or do you have faith?
Well, there's a definition of faith that, and again, you won't
Being
get it because it doesn't fit into the logical
common
human
sense.
world. Faith
Yeah.
that
Well, if it's the seeing or believing in things unseen, correct?
the substance of things hoped
Yes.
for, the evidence of things not seen.
So
Substance and
where's the
evidence.
knowledge and faith separation there? Do you know this or do you just have the faith?
I know it up to the point that I can observe it, and I believe it beyond that.
You can observe it, but you believe it beyond the observation of it.
I can see the results of me operating
Ah,
through spiritual things, so I can observe it.
gotcha.
It's just kind of
I
like
can
a
the
nuclear reaction.
Oh, there you go.
Or
I like the wind one. Let's go with the wind.
yeah, okay.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, we've theoretically figured out that there's molecules of, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon monoxide, whatever, stuff like that are
Yeah.
floating around that
Causing the
in the
wind,
essence of energy and those
the
kind of things,
pressures.
that it moves around, it causes pressure and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that pressure causes those particles to brush against us. And even though we don't see it, there's really particles that are pushing us around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we feel. But
And
that
thoughts. Exactly, too. It's the same
intellectually,
way. It's the same way.
I intellectually know that system. I can observe the wind.
Mhm.
I believe that that is true, even though I have no means of being able to produce that and to convince anybody of that on my own.
Right, right. But I will take it one further. How do we know there's not a giant invisible person being blowing or pushing down pressures?
Maybe,
I could just
but
believe that there is this thing, but that doesn't make it any more real.
I
Correct?
understand, but that may be it.
So
But
we can take these intellectual ideas and
substance,
properties, wind, thoughts,
substance
how our
and
brain
everything, right?
works. Yeah. And we can use it and we can theorize things, but with facts and knowledge, we know how these things work. So the invisible part of it, the invisible gods or guy blowing the wind or making the pressures, they're obsolete, or the guy giving us thoughts are obsolete. We know that our brain operates that way. Every day you have thoughts come through your head, but every day you don't think every thought is God. We know
Well,
how
not
thoughts
not
work, right? We know that they
okay,
come
and
into our head in certain
I
ways.
don't think that I don't think that current understanding obsolete made physics obsolete. Can you
No,
tell
but it makes
me?
the magical part though, right?
Let me just ask you, do you believe that there are such a thing as an oxygen atom?
I don't know. Is there? I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Do you believe it? Do you believe it?
Sure.
Why?
Uh, because I can scientifically look at things. I can find atoms. I can see
Show me.
other
Have you seen an
people's
oxygen?
research. I can go get a microscope, and I'm sure I've been
You
asked
can't
this
see a
before. I don't
microphone.
know. Can we see atoms? Are we able to see
No,
atoms? I think we are. I need to look this up. I'm gonna look this up while we're on there. Go ahead. Go
but
ahead.
how do you know that? How do you know that it really happened? How do
Because
you
I
know
can
that they
go
just
do it
didn't?
myself. I can test these things myself. If I wanted
You
to, I
can
can
how
go someplace that has done it and I can do it. Correct?
you can go see an oxygen atom.
Okay, here we go. Atoms are too small to be seen with the naked eye, and even in the most powerful microscope, it is not possible to see them using visible light. The size of an visible light, I don't know what that means. The size of an atom is typically around, anyways. So yeah, we can't see it.
So
Great,
you see what I'm saying? So
great.
you're saying
It
there's
doesn't change my
substance.
worldview if there's atoms, though. If there's no
I don't.
atoms,
You don't. It doesn't. But there's substance and
molecules, whatever.
evidence that molecules of oxygen exist. We think our system of knowledge has allowed us to come to believe that living things need oxygen to be able to metabolize our world being. We
And then
believe
we
that
can
that
test that.
oxygen,
Yeah.
and we can show that if you hold, so if you keep oxygen away from beings, then they will die. They will cease to operate in
Right.
the physical realm. So even though we can't see it, we don't know it, we can't experience it directly. I've never seen an atom, and most people, I would say out of the 7 billion of us, don't have access to it, even if you believe that there's an electron microscope that allows you to see it.
It doesn't matter
Most
if
of
there's an
us,
atom there or not. The oxygen still does its thing, regardless. That's the point. Is we can
exact,
test that.
that
God doesn't do
exactly.
anything. We can't test it. You can't put God in a tube and put it through your mouth. Or you can't put God in an IV line. You can't do any of that. You can't interject your heart with more godness. You can do all of that with oxygen stuff and reality. That's the difference there, Carrie. That's the difference. We can test these things.
It's fun, but having this, the conversation. But basically, what you're saying is that wall is the wall, and you can choose to either go through the wall
Carrie,
or
God's
not
not
go through.
here. The wall gets bigger. God's not talking to me. Carrie, the wall gets bigger. Everybody
So
has a personal relationship with this guy, but they can't introduce me to him. The wall gets bigger. Oh, well, look, he killed a bunch of kids. The wall gets bigger. You see where this is going? It's up
And
to him to
again,
break
it
down
comes
this
to the
wall,
point.
and he has yet to do it. I have talked to hundreds of
It's
people,
not up to him. It's not up to him. What
and
what
nobody's
benefit is
convinced
it?
me of anything.
What benefit is it to him to convince you, Michael Wiseman, that
Oof.
he is real?
Oof. Does he
Why
not
should
want to
he
have a
come
relationship
to
with me?
you? Why does he come to you
Because he
out
wants a
of 7
relationship,
billion?
correct?
Do you want a relationship with him?
I could carry the way. Do
Well, then
do
why
you
would
think he wants to
so
have a
if
relationship with me? Do you think he wants
if
to have a
okay,
relationship with me, Carrie? Carrie, do you think he wants to have a
let
relationship
me
with me?
ask you let me ask you, before you came to know that I was going to be on your podcast, did you care about Carrie Bass or even know who Carrie Bass was?
I care about
Before,
everybody
but
equally.
you know,
All strangers
no,
are
you don't.
equally
You
cared
didn't
about in my
know
mind.
me.
All
You
strangers are
didn't
equal.
know me.
That's my humanistic side, or you would call it the spirit of God. So that's my humanistic side.
Okay,
Okay, I care about all strangers equally. Cool. All right, good.
right.
We got that. So yes.
But we made a choice, you and I
Yeah,
did, to have a conversation. So now we're into a
correct.
relationship, at least through this conversation.
With the
Uh,
conversation,
and
yes. Yeah.
and we're doing it on equivalent terms. It's not, you didn't pay me anything, I didn't pay you anything to be on this. We both chose to be in this point in time and having
Mhm.
this conversation.
Correct.
And so, if we are beings of choice, and God is a being of choice, and I'm creating beings of choice, would he deny himself? He was going to make you believe in him?
Would he deny himself? Wait, what was that last sentence? Say it again.
If I were to say that I'm making you, like me, a being of choice, if I took away that choice
Yeah.
and made you believe in me, would you still
Well, he
be?
does that. He does that in the Bible, apparently. But either way, regardless of any of that,
Oh,
my
remember
point
we started out
is,
a conversation.
yeah.
We
But my
started a
point is,
conversation
though,
that
Carrie,
there are beings that
Carrie,
create him, he
Carrie,
created,
yeah.
that do but praise him or whatever. So that's, at least that's, if you believe, that part of the Bible, or a part of the
But my point is,
revelation.
Carrie, if he wants to have a relationship with me, if I want to have a relationship with somebody, let's say my kid, and he didn't want to have a relationship with me, what would I do? Would I just ignore him, or would I still reach out to him?
Would you? I mean,
What would you do,
as
Carrie? Because I'm telling you
we're,
right
as
now,
we're,
I'd reach out to him.
no, I'm talking about as a child.
I
Okay.
wouldn't ignore him. I
Uh,
wouldn't be silent. That's not a very nice thing to do. That's not a good nature
I didn't
there,
say, I
Carrie.
didn't say,
Why would God just
but it makes,
ignore me then?
would you, do you ignore other people? I mean, are there people that you just choose
I don't know what that
not
means.
to be involved with?
What does that have to do with anything? I'm talking about God is my father. I'm his kid. And
Why
I'm talking
would,
about my
but
relationship with
see,
my
but if
kids. I
we're,
would do
but
the same
if
thing. I
we are
would
like,
reach out.
if
God is
we are
not doing
like,
that.
if we are like him, would you not have the choice to be in a relationship one way or another? Isn't it a mutual, uh, reciprocating type
So you're
of
telling me God
arrangement?
doesn't reach out to people to have a relationship with them.
Not necessarily, no. Sometimes he does. I mean,
So
what I'm
sometimes he
saying is,
does. I'm just not good enough,
well,
apparently.
let me put it this way. There are, the Spirit of God exists so that you can be able to come to know him. Okay? If you choose to, you can choose not to.
What? Do you believe that Paul became Saul or Saul became Paul? Do you believe that story?
I do.
Okay, so it does happen.
But I believe, now here's the difference. I don't think if you believe the history and the writings of the apostle Paul, he did horrendous things to the Christians.
Yeah,
Um,
what was that? Yeah, yeah.
and God allowed him to do it.
Of
Okay.
course. Well, God
What
does horrendous
what
thing to his own creations. I mean, his favorite people sometimes.
okay. Okay. But at certain point in time,
Hmm.
Paul was confronted, and I think what the situation was with Saul at that time is that, and
So
that's
yeah.
one of those hard lessons, is that Saul was mistaken. He did not know. Remember, we talked about when you know better, you should do better.
He didn't
At
know it was
certain,
wrong to hurt people.
he thought it was right to
To hurt
defend
people.
Judaism against heretics.
Right. So he thought it was right to hurt people, and Jesus comes along who hurts people, says it's wrong to hurt people.
Jesus never hurt anybody.
Jesus is God, and God hurts people, and they all do the same thing. Yeah, I mean,
Okay. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but
the triune God is one. The one action is
gotta go
all,
along
right?
with it.
If the
You gotta
triune
go
God
along.
is one action
If we're
is
going to
all,
have this,
correct?
if we're going to go along with the logic of the story, you got to at least go along with the logic of the story. You can't, you can't switch and say, "No, I don't believe it."
Logic of the story. Gary, I love it. You're so much fun. We are out of time though here. We're going to close it out. Any last words, and where can we find you at, Carrie?
If you're interested in finding me, you can find me on LinkedIn. My profile is up there, Carrie Bass. But also my company is Potential to Reality Consulting. The website is makingitreality.com, www.makingitreality.com. Be happy to talk about people that, would love to be able to figure out what you do. If you want to even just talk about the nature of the spirit, I'll be happy to chat with you about that. But you don't have to believe even if you don't want to. So
thank you, Carrie. Appreciate your time. We'll stay in touch, man.
Thanks, Michael. This has been a fun conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's all the show there is for you today. Thanks for listening. As always, you can find all things BSW related on the show's website at thebiblesayswhat.com. If you like what you heard and want to help keep the recording light on, simply go to thebiblesayswhat.com and sign up to be a supporter of the show. Your episodic tithes of $1 or more will get you early access to each new episode on Wednesdays instead of Sundays. And no matter which platform you use to listen to your podcasts, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next episode. Until then, would you kindly share and review the show? That's it. I'm done. I don't know. I got nothing. Goodbye. See ya.